A small batch Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey finished with Amburana wood. That's something I've never tried before, but we will now. We're going to review RD1 small batch Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey finished with Brazilian Amburana wood. 110 proof. So this is a bottle that caught my attention not because of the brand and not because of the bottle, but because of the finish. When I saw a bottle on the shelf and it noted finished with Brazilian Amburana wood, I was like, I've never had that finish. I've been curious about it. And then what got me was a price that apparently, according to my knowledge, was about $20 below MSRP. This was about $52. Supposedly the MSRP could be as high as $70, and I think this was marked down some. And I was quite intrigued because I've seen other bottles in different finishes with Amburana wood, Amburana casks, and I'm looking at like a finish with that below MSRP and 110 proof. So that got my attention. I looked it up. I knew nothing about this bottle or this distillery, and I was curious, and I grabbed it. So here's the details. It does say small batch. I'm not sure. Again, that's a very loose term. I don't have any information on how many barrels, but they call it a small batch. Again, it's 110 proof. The company is RD1 Spirits, which I believe was founded in 2020 in Lexington, Kentucky, but the history goes certainly back before that. This is sourced, so it supposedly is sourced from undisclosed Kentucky distilleries, and it says bottled by RD1 Bourbon. The age is not age stated, but it's supposedly at least 4 years old. Mash bill, 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley. It is a very common mash bill thereabouts that I've seen with some other sourced whiskeys. Just happens to be that 21 rye always catches my attention. The RD1, it stands for Registered Distillery 1. And supposedly it was originally called Ashland Distillery, and then it was called the William Tarr Distillery, and supposedly it was the first federally registered distillery in Lexington, and that's where the namesake comes from, RD1. And the way this works is, I think more typically, there will be situations where a bourbon is finished in Amburana barrels. That's not what happens here. In this particular case, Amburana wood staves are inserted into the whiskey rather than being transferred to a second barrel afterwards. So I'm guessing that this is just aged for whatever amount of time, and I'm assuming that at some point after that, once it's matured, these Amburana wood staves are inserted into the barrel for a certain amount of time. I don't think that's disclosed, and the finish comes like that. So supposedly the flavor would be more balanced, from what I understand, and more intense impact from the staves by inserting them into the whiskey rather than transferring it into the barrel, which kind of makes sense. So I'm very curious to taste this. It's the finish, and I want to see what impact this finish with the Brazilian Amburana wood staves has on the whiskey, and that's what I'm really going to be paying attention here. So let's get this cracked open and see. That was an excellent cork pop, and by the way, this is a beautiful cork, which I'll try to show on the screen. Shows the number 1 for Kentucky's first registered distillery in Lexington, Kentucky. So, really nice bottle, a really solid cork. I'm a fan of a really nice cork. Certainly like this. Very, very cool. We'll definitely be saving it if you know that. I definitely save my corks. So, nice, medium color. I say light to medium. Nice light color there. So let's give this a nose. Oh, I'm getting a nice sweetness on here. Very unique. I'm going to really be paying attention to where the Amburana finish with the wood staves into the barrel, what influence that has. Very nice, sweet nose. Let's give this a taste. Cheers. It does mention the word ginger snap on here. This is truly, I'm assuming that's this sweetness. I'm getting this, whatever sweetness I got on the nose, it's definitely multiplied on the palate. I'm assuming that's coming from these Brazilian Amburana wood staves. Very sweet. Actually, that is a gingerbread cookie. It is a baking spice. Apples. You can almost say this is like apple pie in a glass. This is delicious. But that keynote, it really truly is gingerbread coming out of this. I mean, this is that is a prominent note. I'm getting I'm feeling that heavy influence from the wood staves, kind of on the back end, traditional, caramel and the typical kind of bourbon flavors. There's definitely oak. That oak is definitely coming from these staves, and then and then the flavor that's being imparted from those staves clearly is that this must be the influence from that, because this is not the type of flavor and pacing that you would get in just a regular bourbon. I just don't see these kind of notes, these tasting notes. Really good. So I would say yes. It does say it on the back here. My wife's going to say, "Well, you just read it," and it's so prominent. You can there's no doubt about that. I might even have her try this. So if you think of a gingerbread, I'm going to take it a step further. You think of a gingerbread cookie. I remember, when I was a kid, I used to eat these Pepperidge Farm gingerbread man. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. A sugar, brown sugar, gingerbread, apple pie, baking spice, all that stuff. Just this is dessert in a glass. So if this is what type of flavor is imparted by Brazilian Amburana wood, then I'm on board with this. I know I've seen. Here's the other thing. This is what also got me. I know I've seen other bottles that have these finishes that are somewhat more expensive than this. So when I saw this at $52 with 110 proof, with this finish, I kind of thought that that was a good price. And compared to other bottles with that kind of finish, I think it is. Again, this was marked down. Not sure why. Like, if you look at the front of this, unless you really know about the distillery, I did not. I think I've probably passed this by before. I was looking for something different that would catch my eye, and I didn't see this right away. And then I just happened to take a look at this in Bottle King in North Jersey by my office, and they always pretty much have about the best prices in New Jersey that I've seen. And I was kind of curious. It's not, like I said, this isn't what caught my eye. It's not the brand, not the bottle. It is that finish. So I think I'm a new fan of an Amburana finish, if that's what this is like. And I wonder if the finish was where they mature the whiskey, as opposed to here where these Brazilian Amburana wood staves are actually inserted into the whiskey. It kind of sounds a little like what Maker's Mark does with its French oak wood staves. I know I like that flavor. So one more sip on this. First blush on this one. This is a little bit more on the dessert side. This is delicious. This is a delicious bourbon, I think, for the money and the proof. And even a little bit of the story here with this distillery. I think this is a good one. Cheers.